Merry Christmas, everybody. Non-conference plays in the rearview mirror. So what's on the Tar Heels shopping list for Christmas Day?
This is David Noel, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Merry Christmas. It's Thursday, December 25th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. Yeah, we're coming at you even on Christmas Day because we know you're out there trying to find some time to yourself because you got 20 aunts and uncles around you. You're probably sleeping on the couch or on an air mattress, and you just need to hang out with Coach Rob and me, and that's why it's good to be here. You're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks for making us your first listen on this Christmas Day. Special shout out to all the everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course our insiders as well. Coming up on the show today, Coach Rob is going to put together for us his Christmas Day wish list for the Tar Heels. We're going to look at how on earth did Seth Trimble come back and just hit the ground running like he did? Like, I'm befuddled by that. I can't even come back from like a cough and then brush my teeth good the next day or something like that. And Seth Trimble's out here dropping 17 in his first game back. And then finally, one of the great things about this year is that because of what Carolina did in non-con, they are no longer playing for inclusion in the NCAA tournament, but seeding. And that's great news. I also want to ask Coach Rob a couple things about Christmas because it's Christmas Day and we got to get into that. So obviously I've mentioned him a couple times, but it is so great to have our brother Coach Bill Robinson on the show today, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes and a 2-decade plus now veteran of Carolina Basketball School, which is Carolina's summer basketball camp. There is a great book that he's written, Carolina Basketball School, History, Stories, and Drills. If you still somehow you need a belated Christmas gift, that's the thing for you. By the way, Coach Rob, as I mentioned that, I feel like I've had several people reach out lately asking if you were going to be at any more games this year because they wanted to get their book signed. To my knowledge, you don't have any other games, but are there any others you're going to this year?
Yeah, it really just depends on our postseason play and how things round out. But I'm still going to try to get down to one. But if it is, it'll be one of the last couple home games.
Okay. Great. So we'll keep, for all of those of you who are interested in getting your book signed, we'll keep you updated on that as we get deeper into the spring, and that'll be good stuff there. All right, Coach, let's dive right into this thing. I forgot to wear my Santa hat. I usually wear my Santa hat on the Christmas show. Boy, I am a Scrooge apparently this year. But Coach, non-conference play now in the rear view. Carolina 12-1. I think if you went back to Coach Rob and Isaac back in August, we would have been wildly pleased with that result. Thank you very much. That said, though, it is clearly not a perfect team because there are no perfect teams. And so, Coach, I know you have a Christmas wish list for the Tar Heels that you could deliver if you were Santa Claus. And so I'd love to hear what you have on that Christmas Day wish list for Carolina.
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd like to see is that our point guard play become even better. And I know that there's been the Derek Dixon, group coming up and loving him, and he's going to be great. And he's been an unbelievable surprise, I think, for a lot of people. Not surprised to me. I saw him this summer and we were talking about him right away. But we'd still like to see them become more consistent and become as we see the best, front court in the country, in our opinion, of course. You're going to see double teams. You're going to see a lot more attention to those guys. Those point guards, those off guards are going to have to make shots. And I'd like to see those two guys, especially with Evans and
Dixon.
And Dixon both, the two of them together start, just being able to be a little bit more productive at the offensive end.
Let me ask you, Coach, before you keep moving on in your list, do you like where it is right now? It's kind of like, yes, Kyan Evans is still the starter, but it's basically an even balance of power where they're both getting essentially the same amount of playing time. And it's almost like in some ways Coach is riding the hot hand or the hot distribution hand, whichever is playmaking better in a given game. Do you like the way that Coach is kind of allowing that to just organically play out?
Yeah, it's an awesome situation for a coach because you got two players who are playing well. It's horrible when you have two players in the same position not playing well, and you're trying to figure out which one can actually do something positive for a night. But no, you have two guys competing, and the best way you can compete against other people is to have daily competition among your own team, and that's what those two guys are doing. And their attitude seems to be
Yes.
unbelievable. So they seem to be the iron sharpens iron, and they seem to be really enjoying this. But neither one of them really cares unless as long as they're winning. It just makes everything that much easier.
Man, yeah, it's so encouraging. But yes, I'm with you. I would like to see, the way I keep thinking about it is, it feels like Kyan is still figuring out what Kyan Evans' role is on this team, and maybe the rest of the guys kind of are too. And like, do you have any wisdom for that, coach, of like what he can do to put that in concrete, what that role is, and then how he can best live into it?
Yeah, he's the upperclassman, so I think his maturity is going to show through this whole situation, to stay positive regardless of what happens. And those days when Dixon plays well and plays more minutes, he's got to stay positive. And if they do decide at some point to make a switch in the starting lineup, he's going to have to continue to fight in practice and play hard every day, and be very, and he will. He's just a great young man. They both are. They're going to come with their lunch pails and work hard every day, regardless of what the situation is. And they're great teammates. So as long as it's about we, I really don't think they care about the me.
All right, coach, that's great stuff. What else do you have on that Christmas wish list for the Tar Heels?
Yeah, the next thing I'd love to see is somebody develop. Same thing we've talked about all year is just a post player, someone behind Henry that can give some minutes so he doesn't have to play 35 minutes a game. It's a long season. It is a marathon. If he can get down to 28 to 30 minutes instead of 30 plus minutes, I just think it'll keep him fresher come March and hopefully April. So that's a thing for me. I'd love to see a little bit more depth at the big positions.
Yeah, right now Henry is averaging 30.7 minutes per game, second on the team behind only Seth Trimble. Coach, I guess the obvious follow-up to that from me would be, with Seth's return to the lineup, Jarin Stevenson is the one that went to the bench, and now it's like he is the first big off the bench rather than either James Brown or Jaydon High. Does that seem to be the right play in your mind, and does that provide that stability behind Henry that you're looking for, even though Jaren's not a natural five?
It is, and that's what we've talked about in the summer. We talked about, with Luka signed and being able to slide, Jarin, and Jarin is that ability to guard, at least three positions, maybe a fourth, depending on if they had a big two somewhere. But he, to me, is still the key defensively, because the other, it's been solid defensively, obviously, but to have somebody come off the bench with his skill set defensively and then the ability also to stretch the floor,
Yes.
he's just a huge, huge asset to the team right now.
Yeah, Carolina's doing what they're doing with Jarin not being good from beyond the arc, to your point about making shots. As we sit here on Christmas Day, Jarin is 6 of 34 from three. That's 17.6%. Gotta think there's nowhere to go but up. Hopefully, fingers crossed with that. But seriously, keep shooting them, Jarin Stevenson. They'll go down, and that's going to just raise Carolina's both floor and ceiling. Coach, anything else you got on your Christmas wish list for the Tar Heels?
Yeah, the last thing for me is obviously just stay healthy, and you want everybody to keep the momentum going the way it is right now. Once you start to win games, you get that feeling that you're never going to lose, and you just want that momentum to keep going forward. So I think that's the big thing for right now, is to keep everybody healthy. We got the lineup that we thought we were going to have back in June, July, and it's finally seeming to come together, and it's really a super exciting time.
Man, that's a great one, Coach. And good night. Fingers crossed. And that's why these 8 days off from the ECU game on Monday night until ACC play starts against Florida State next Tuesday will be great. There is another kind of off week. Carolina has a Saturday to Saturday break in ACC play, but now it's going to just be this grind from now until March, basically. And so, yeah, everybody's got to continue doing everything they're doing. And to that point about health, Coach, that's a great little segue you just made for us there into having our next conversation about Seth Trimble getting back, quite frankly, faster than I ever anticipated he would. And not only getting back, but this dude was shot out of a cannon, Coach Rob. How on earth did he make that happen? We'll have that conversation coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about our friends at FanDuel, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game. You actually get to react to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. So every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And honestly, live betting is at its best when the game starts to shift. Maybe there's a receiver that gets hot. Maybe there's a game-changing turnover that shifts all the momentum. And FanDuel lets you jump right into those moments because live spreads, money lines, and all updates instantly. You can bet who's going to score the next touchdown or what the result of this drive is going to be. It's so cool and a great way to stay locked in. How about some Wooden Award odds? Cam Boozer from Duke leads the way at -135, followed by BYU's AJ DeBonsa at +300, Yaxel Lendeborg over at Michigan +1400, and now Caleb Wilson has moved all the way up to a tie for fourth in the Wooden Award odds with Braden Smith from Purdue, the preseason National Player of the Year, at +1600. So if you want to be right in the middle of that action or Carolina basketball action or any NFL action, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch on this Christmas Day. And thanks for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network as well. You've heard me talking about it. There's a brand new thing called the Everydayers Club, an opportunity for you who are already locked in with this show every day to go next level. There's 2 different tiers that you can check out. That link's in the show notes. But if you want to find it, it's lockedontarheels.supercast.com. All right, Coach, I got to be honest. I fully anticipated that we would not sniff Seth Trimble's return until today, Christmas Day, or obviously Carolina doesn't have a game today, but you get my point. After Christmas Day, like that FSU game next Tuesday being the earliest possibility he would come back. Boy, the egg is on my face, Coach, because this dude has not only come back, but he's played 2 games. He scored 29 points in those games. He's got 8 assists to 2 turnovers in those games, and he's shot 50% from 3 in those games. So, Coach Rob, you see this all the time. Guys getting injured, coming back from a variety of injuries. I know, like in that Ohio State game, there were times Seth looked a little bit gassed, but outside of that, he has looked like he hasn't missed a single beat. How?
It's an amazing comeback. I mean, it's incredible. And there's two factors, in my opinion. One is obviously Seth's disciplined enough to, you guarantee he was on the treadmill or on the bike or whatever. He was trying to keep up, and it's different basketball condition than you can get in just running shape. But you can tell he kept up with what he was supposed to do. And the fact that it was his left hand, his non-shooting hand, allowed him. I'm sure he was still doing form shooting. I'm sure he was still shooting free throws. All those things that he could do with one arm. The second thing for me is just the training staff and Doug Halverson and the doctors behind all of this. It's incredible what those guys do. And Doug's the best. And even the strength conditioning coach with Jonas, those guys are unbelievable at Carolina. And they are huge when it comes to not just getting these guys bigger and stronger, but to be able to take care of them physically to make sure they stay away from the injuries and keep them healthy and exactly what we were just talking about. But it's such a big part that people just don't think about.
I cannot. Coach, I've been trying to remember a player coming back and coming back this strong. Usually it's like, there's some, we're going to play him for like a 3-minute stretch and then let him, just kind of ease him back in. There was no easing back in. One of the things that I heard Seth say this week, Coach, since the Ohio State game was he learned a lot last year when he obviously different injury. It was a head injury, but when he came back, and I think that's maybe part of the surprise here, the whole rest of the season, he was never the same Seth last year when he came back. And so I heard him and I can't remember verbatim what he said, but basically, hey, I learned a lot from last year about kind of coming back too early and how I needed to do that. And so how just, even though it's a different injury, different part of the body, kind of the, like, you can't see it and can't see an arm's fused back together or whatever versus an arm injury. But Coach, how do you have that experience of last year, learn from it, and then figure out what your body needs to be ready to go and let it tell you when it's time?
Yeah, I was super shocked he came back as quickly. When I first heard about it, I'm thinking January, February at the earliest, and this could be a season-ending injury for a lot of guys. So first of all, shocked. Second of all, just the confidence that you have to come back, just the mental side of it. And I think obviously a concussion, and that's why things have changed so much since I played when it came to getting concussions,
Yeah.
and the protocol is completely different now, obviously, and it's a good thing. but I think it shows a little bit more how serious that injury was last year with Seth. And it was a little bit more, maybe a little deeper than they let on, and it did affect him, I think, a lot longer. But his confidence, and I think he understands also his role is he's the guy. As much as you want to say Caleb and Henry, they're the guys who lead with the stats. I mean, Seth's our guy. He's our leader, and I think he understands it. It's still his team. He doesn't have to be the All-American or the best scorer or whatever to be able to be the leader on this team. This is his team, and he wanted to come back, and he wanted to come back as quickly as possible. And I don't think they win the Ohio State game without him. I think it's pretty obvious, but I think he understands that his role is huge, and it doesn't have to be in the stat sheet.
Coach, literally verbatim, the next statement out of my mouth was Carolina does not beat Ohio State without Seth Trimble. Let me flip side that by saying, hey, today's Christmas Day, the last big holiday, Thanksgiving Day. I think Carolina does beat Michigan State with Seth Trimble because Jeremy Fears doesn't get 19 points or whatever he had, because he doesn't do that normally, and he took advantage of the absence of Seth Trimble. And so, Coach, that leads me into a conversation to say, yes, when we think about Seth Trimble, the very first thing we think about is the defense because he's so phenomenal at it. But to do so is to sell Seth short of everything else he brings to the table. So, Coach, I'd love it if you could enumerate for us some of the ways in which Seth's return raises both Carolina's floor and ceiling.
Yeah, I think the big thing is you got your guy back, you got your leader back, and it's huge. And if you've been part of a team, you understand when your leader, your upperclassman, your guy is back, it makes everybody else relax because they know that they're not expected to do as much of the leading, and that's a big role. So that allows everybody else just to relax and do what they're supposed to do. The big thing we've already talked about is having him back in the lineup brings Jarin off the bench. So it does solve some of the big man problems, and it just makes them some deeper. So it's not just the stats. It's just this mere presence. And it sounds funny, but it's just to have him warming up in the lineup, layup lines to start the game, and knowing that he's going to be in that starting lineup can just let everybody know that they can just relax and stay within their role.
Yeah, it's funny we don't think about the psychology of that. We so often think about what they will do, what a player will do on the court when they return, whether it's shutting down an opposing guard, whether it's reigniting Carolina's transition game or anything like that. Coach, one of the things I've been very impressed with in Seth's return is Seth, the producer, Seth, the playmaker is what I'm actually looking for. I was looking at his assist percentages through his 4 years of college and his turnover percentages through his 4 years of college. It's crazy the way in which each of those, like his assist percentage has grown astronomically to the point where this season it's 23%, and his turnover percentage has gone down from the 20s to this year at a career low 8 point something percent. And I hear it, I get it, small sample size of 4 games. But Coach, when we earlier in the show talked about some of the point guard issues, how does what Seth brings as a playmaker who's got a really nice 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio right now help settle some of that as well?
Yeah, I don't necessarily like the thought of him going to the point guard position.
No,
I like him. Yeah, no, yeah, I like him where he is. And what I like about those stats is you're showing his development. And I know there's been some criticism of Carolina not developing guys over a period of time in the last few years, and I don't believe it. Obviously, I'm biased, but I also see how guys get better. See how guys get better within the year. But to be able to see him over a 4-year period just continue to grow, and I think that is the influence of Jeff Lebo as a guard. He was such a big part of Carolina basketball at that time. But Marcus Page, to be able to spend time with him and not just talking about basketball, but actually being out there on the court as a young coach and being able to help him, walk through stuff, even run through stuff. I think those are huge keys to his development over the last 4 years.
Amazingly, Carolina goes 8-1 in Seth Trimble's absence, 4-0 with him in the lineup. They are 12-0 on the season right now. And so, Coach, we're having vastly different postseason conversations than we did this time last year, looking at Carolina's seeding in the NCAA tournament rather than their inclusion in the NCAA tournament. I want to ask Coach about the psychology of that. Coming up to wrap the show in just a second. Coach, this time last year, it is no Shocker to anyone that is listening to or watching this show that Carolina was on the struggle bus. As they finished non-con play, they had played one ACC game. They were 1-0. They beat Georgia Tech. You take that game out, Carolina finished non-con play, coach, 7-5. And that was not good enough. And so last year, we were having conversations about, oh my word, can Carolina put together a resume? Can they get a quad one win? We were having NCAA tournament inclusion conversations. Can they get onto the bubble? Can they make it in? We know now that they did make it in by the skin of their Bubba Cunningham teeth. But coach, this year, it is not a conversation about inclusion. As we sit here right now, teamrankings.com gives Carolina a 99% chance to make the NCAA tournament. They've already won 3 quad one games. And thankfully, with an ACC that is better this year, they have right now, as things sit, 8 more quad one opportunities in ACC play. And so, coach, the conversation this year is not about inclusion, but rather about seeding. And right now, Carolina is trending to be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. How different is that conversation with your team?
Yeah, I look at it from a coach's perspective. Obviously, there's no talk about Hubert on the hot seat and all that stuff. All that's gone. He can just coach now. He can just relax. It allows the recruiting to be much easier because now you don't have guys wondering whether he's going to be back next year, all that other stuff. But he can just relax and just coach, and his staff can just. The conversations are so different. So that's the big thing for me is that you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Second thing is that the guys, they don't feel the pressure now. Almost everything you see in the media right now is positive. And that's a huge thing for a guy because the kids are looking at it. I know Hubert doesn't look at it. His staff doesn't look at it. They're not worried about it. But the kids look and read everything, and they hear everything. And going to class or just walking down the street, people are, in their ears about certain things. But everything right now is positive. That just allows that momentum to go and keep going forward. So I think it's huge. I think it allows them to just focus on the day-to-day thing and not think about the big picture.
And so it's almost funny because now you've got less pressure in a way, because it's like now you just keep playing. You keep doing what you've already established. Yes, there's stuff to work on. This is, as we talked about earlier, not a perfect team. Coach laid out his Christmas wish list for the team. And so how does that relaxation allow you to say, all right, got FSU coming up next Tuesday. They're coming to the Dean Dome. We're starting ACC play. Let's go play our game, because I think that's part of it too, is the team last year, coach, they were searching for identity. They were searching for personnel and rotation and all of that. This team already knows who they are. I think we see who their starting 5 is going to be. We know that at the under 16 timeout, that Jarin's going to come in, that Derek Dixon's come in, and that Jonathan Powell's going to go, right? Like all of that is already established 13 games into the season. How is that part of the narrative?
No, I think that's huge because now you mentioned roles earlier in the conversation. I think they do have a pretty good understanding of where the roles are right now. And I think the chemistry seems really, really high. And you can see a couple different ways just over even the ECU game. Just looking at the way the bench, we watch the bench when it comes to recruiting guys. We watch the bench in our own films. We want to make sure that they understand that there's a certain energy that has to come. But when you see Elijah Davis make a 3 at the end of that game, there were literally guys leaping for joy over there. And to me, it's not just the coach's kid. That shows me that sometimes it's the coach's kid. You got to make sure everybody claps for him or whatever. No, those guys were leaping for joy, and that everybody was just euphoric. And it's just one of those things, that signs that show this team's got something special right now. They like each other. It probably love each other. I mean, there's a group that really seems to be connected right now. And when all those other distractions are gone, they can just focus on what they need to do every day to be better.
And I think that's a moment for us to say, Coach, hey, you all, us included, do not take that for granted, because we know, especially in this day and age where you're basically putting together a new team every year, you're not going to get this level of camaraderie. You're not going to get this level of playing for the team, the name on the front of the jersey. You're not going to get that year after year. You hope you do. And that's the kind of person that Hubert Davis is trying to find and recruit. But man, it's special and rare when it happens. I've been part of a lot of teams in my life, not at this level of competition, but still obviously Coach has as well. And so he knows too how special that is. Coach, it is Christmas Day, and so I thought it'd be fun to wrap the show with a little Christmas banter if we can have some fun with that. So, Coach, here's what I need to know first from you. What is, and you can define this however you want to, but for your money's worth, what is your favorite Christmas movie?
I actually watched it, last night. We actually watched. I like the Santa Claus too, and I just that's just
Specifically number two.
the two, yeah, not the one, the two. But there's a scene where it's the faculty Christmas party, and Tim Allen starts bringing toys from when they were kids, and it just make you feel like a kid again, and seeing Toss Across and the little bake oven and all those little things that we remember as kids, and that's my favorite. I'm not into a lot of the older movies anyway. This is just kind of one of those fun movies that we could watch while we decorated cookies.
So that's the one where he's got to get married. He marries the school principal.
Yep, exactly.
And it's the third one where Martin Short comes in and he's Jack Frost, right?
Yeah. I got my own Jack Frost friend. I don't need one on TV. So
That's true. You do.
yeah, I don't like the third one. Second one's right on.
Second one's right on. Hey, it's rare in a trilogy that the second movie is the best of them, but Santa Claus can be up there. I think there's an argument for Home Alone 2 to be the best.
The Ocean's 12. I like the Ocean's 12 better. Yep.
I'm out on that one, Coach. That's my least favorite of the three. I love the Ocean's franchise, but we don't often disagree. But there is one where
once.
All right, Coach. Let's move to food because this is what gets my stomach and my heart and my eyeballs happy. Christmas meal, whether it's Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, whatever it is. What is the food that if this food is missing, Christmas has been an utter failure because I didn't get to eat it?
I need to explain a Christmas tradition we've had since I was a little kid. But we would actually spend Christmas Eve in the living room. We would sleep around the Christmas tree. Mom would get the couch wherever the comfy spot was, and the rest of us kids would sleep wherever. And then you didn't have to get out of bed to open gifts. We would sleep in sleeping bags and whoever's close to the tree. So that's part of what started this whole tradition. And then we started with my family, but we actually have more traditions for breakfast than we do for a regular meal. So we still have a big dinner, but our big lunch, but breakfast casserole, cheesecake, breakfast cheesecake, and then fruit dip with all kinds of different fruit. And that's, if you ask our kids, that's what they think about Christmas. They think about that that morning. So even though all of our kids were not here for Christmas this year because now they're married and doing we got together Christmas Eve morning and did that instead. So that tradition will continue for hopefully a long, long time.
Oh man, Coach,
what about you?
First off, I am an absolute sucker for traditions and reminiscing and those kind of family things. So like I'm getting like tears in my eyes thinking about how special that is for the Robinson family, man. Also, very quickly, I need to know what makes breakfast cheesecake different than regular cheesecake because I'm here for the breakfast version.
Yeah, it's like in a pan, like a casserole, but it's breakfast, but it's cheesecake, but it's baked kind of with breading and it's phenomenal. It's sweet, where the breakfast casserole is eggs and sausage and cheese and that kind of stuff. So they're different. So you get the sweet and the salty, which my mom always tried to do with my school lunches when I was a kid too. So we still learn and we end up becoming our parents. So
I am all in on that, man. I will be at your house December 24th, 2026, and we'll do it.
Deal.
Okay, you asked me, and you know what? I didn't prepare an answer to my own question, but Coach, I just love steak. So last night, Christmas Eve, Maggie, for those of you that don't know, my wife works at a church. And so she had to be there for multiple services yesterday. So we actually did kind of a big meal, the four of us shades together on the 23rd. And so we did like filet and chicken. We did a really good like gravy with mashed potatoes and stuff like that. And so I just love like steak is what for me makes a meal really, really special. We actually did steak for Thanksgiving like 24. And I was like, bring it on I'm not an anti-turkey guy. I'm just a pro steak guy. And so I think that's the thing. Also, I've got a terrible sweet tooth, my friend. And so I'm a pie over cake guy always. So give me an apple pie, like a warm apple pie. Oh man, I'm all in.
We're back on the same page again. So
okay, good.
Yeah, I'm absolutely right on point with that one.
I love it. All right, you guys. Hey, by the way, let us know the answers. We'd love to know what you guys think too. Favorite movies, the food that has to be there, or it wasn't Christmas. Coach, at these times of years, we always just take time to reflect. And it's just a moment for me to say how grateful I am for you. And Coach and I have been talking about this, you guys, but I'm actually going to be in Johnson City visiting my parents' house this weekend. And so Coach and I are going to get to meet up and just spend at least a little bit of time together. And so I can't wait to see you, hug you, and tell you I love you.
Sounds great. Love you too.
All right, you guys, thanks for being with us here on a Christmas day. If you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, do it right now so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. If you haven't joined our new Everydayers Club, that link's in the show notes, as is the link for the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. We'd love to see you in there. That link is in the show notes. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back together again tomorrow on Boxing Day. Josh Marlowe is going to join me for that show. Should be a blast. We'll talk again then, but for now, Merry Christmas. Peace.